Hi, welcome to Love Theatre Day at Bristol Vic. This is Emma Stenning talking. I'm Chief Executive of Bristol Vic. And one of the questions is, what's my job title and what do I do? So maybe let's start there. So my job title isn't really very theatre-y at all. It's Chief Executive. And you find Chief Executives in all sorts of businesses. And what that means is that I'm basically responsible for Bristol Vic. And I work with an amazing team of people, some of whom lead the organisation creatively and some of whom think about marketing and other people think about producing or technical theatre or finance and administration. And my job really is to try to coordinate all of that and keep the organisation moving in the right direction and to report all of that through to a board and to our funders and the Arts Council and to make sure that ultimately we are delivering on our long-term strategic and creative plans. So I suppose my job is the one that probably looks furthest into the future. There's a lot of people at Bristol Vic are worrying about the show that we've got on tonight, and a lot of people are worrying about the show that's on next, and I'm probably worrying about what we're doing in about 5 years' time. So I'm the person that looks a long way into the distance and tries to make sure that we have the resources and the capacity and the ability to do what we want to do. And I'm probably one of the few people in the organisation that really looks outside of the organisation and tries to connect what we do with what's going on politically, what's going on locally, what's going on socially, and trying to make ways in which we can work with businesses in the city and with the local council and with local stakeholders. So that's a sort of very high level overview of what I do. And my background is as a theatre producer. So I started off making shows when I first left theatre, and I made shows for many, many years. And in fact, when I first came to Bristol Vic and there was a much smaller team then, I was producing the work that we made. We didn't have a producing department then. And over the last 8 years, we've grown the staff of Bristol Vic, and now we have a big producing team, so I don't get my hands dirty as much anymore. And in some ways I miss that a great deal, but it's also amazing to be able to focus on the future of the organisation in the way that I can. So I hope that answers the question, what's my job title and what do I do? There's no such thing as a typical day, really. That's been another question, what is a typical day? Today, for example, we spent the whole day, right from first thing this morning, it's now gone 6 o'clock at night, we spent the whole day working on our capital project. So right from first thing this morning, we've been meeting with our project team and our builders and our architects and internally with staff here that have got responsibilities on the building project, and we've really been reviewing every aspect of the capital project, and we've spent a long time on site looking at how things are going. So that's taken the whole day, and that kind of day happens once a month. But usually my days are really, really varied, and I normally start off with a breakfast meeting with one of my senior managers. And whether that's my development director, my finance director, or my production director, or one of my team, and we start with a breakfast meeting which happens once every fortnight. I see each of them for breakfast once a fortnight, and so we have an hour together to just catch up and to review how things are going and how their department's going and what their current pressures and objectives are and how they're going against their targets. And so that's a really important time for me because my senior team is really sort of my department, I suppose. They represent the whole organisation, and that's how I check in with how they're doing and what they're up to and how their teams are doing. And then usually in the morning I'll then have a bit of time in my office trying to catch up on email and correspondence, and a bit of time with Sian, who runs the director's office here, to figure out priorities for the day and the week and what's going on with meetings and travel and things. And then I probably have a bit of time with my finance director most days, just to catch up on where everything is financially and to make sure that the money is doing what we need it to do, and how we're doing at box office and how we're doing on budgets, because it's really important in my job to be across what's going on financially, On most days, I probably spend a bit of time talking to someone on my board because they're very involved in what we do. So I connect with the governance structure of this organisation and trying to make sure that the various projects that our trustees are working on are all going really, really well. And it's quite often through the afternoon that I will spend a bit of time outside of the organisation meeting with someone off-site or someone in the city or a local business, or I might go out and spend time talking to a group about Bristol or presenting to people about what we're doing. And then probably at some point in the day, I'll also spend some time working on projects, whether that's connecting with the producing team on some of the shows we've got coming up, or thinking about their future life, or thinking about the capital project. So all sorts of different things happen in a day, and it's quite usual that in an evening I'll go out and see a show. I'm also on a lot of boards myself, so quite often I have to spend a bit of time in the day thinking about my responsibilities at one of the organisations that I'm a trustee of. So I think that's a sort of typical day. What are our other questions? Oh yes, the final question. How do you start a theatre company? That's a really good question, actually. People don't ask that very often, because I know it can seem really, really mysterious how to start a theatre company. I've started 2 different theatre companies in my time. One I began when I just left university, and the other I started in partnership with Tom Morris about 11, 12 years ago now. And I think really the simplest answer is to say that you just call yourself a theatre company. I remember asking someone, I asked a journalist when I was at university, how do I become a theatre producer? And he said, well, you just call yourself a theatre producer. And I think that's really good advice in a way, that actually starting a theatre company is a really kind of mad thing to do. And you need to figure out how to make a show. And the hardest bit there really is how do you raise money? And to begin with, that's tough. You've really got to figure out how to put a show on that you can kind of pull together the resources for. And it might be that that's something that your school can help you do. It might be that that's something that your college or your university can help you do. It might be that you're part of something like the Bristol Young Company or Made in Bristol, or you're part of a youth theatre. And I think the most important thing at the beginning is to find the people that you want to work with. Find the people who inspire you, whether that's artists or other producers or designers, or just find the gang of people that you have a good laugh with and you have fun making theatre with, even if that's just making a show in your back garden to begin with. Figure out the group of people that you want to work with, and then start to put on a show. And it doesn't matter how small you start, really. And you need to keep plugging away at it, and you need to get noticed. And I think the more seriously you take that, the harder you push it. And of course, some people might choose to go to Edinburgh, other people might start to make shows on the London Fringe. When I started out, I probably burnt through about 5 credit cards trying to fund the work that I was making. And of course, we were doing things on profit shares. I was building the set in my back garden. I was sewing all the costumes on my mum's sewing machine. So, you got to start out pulling it together in any way you can. And then it's about networking. It's about making sure that people in the industry get to see your work, because ultimately that's how you progress in the theatre industry. You've got to get your work on, and then you've got to get it seen. And of course, as you graduate and as you start to take it more seriously, then of course you can apply to the Arts Council for project funding. There might be schemes at your local council that you can apply to. There might be schemes at your local theatre that you can get involved with. So I would really look out for all of those sorts of things. And you've got to have faith. You've got to make the work that you believe in. And you've got to have tenacity. You've got to really stick at it, because it's a tough thing to do, but keep the faith and you'll get there. And I think that's all of my questions. So I hope you have a great Love Theatre Day, and that we see you soon at Bristol Vic.